Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Michael Jaden X here. In episode 2 of Warrior Women, we'll be talking about Coretta Scott King, the wife of Martin Luther King Jr. Without further ado, let's get started. She was born Coretta Scott in Heiberger, Alabama on April 27th, 1927, in her parents' house. Her paternal great-grandmother was actually a former slave. Coretta grew up with a love for music, and she was a valedictorian in high school. Now, Coretta grew up during the Great Depression, in which her sister, and her brother would have to pick cotton to help make ends meet for the family. Coretta got her Bachelor's of Arts degree from Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio, then later switched over to the New England Conservatory of Music, in which she would study singing, and later got her Bachelor's of Music. While at music school, Coretta would meet Martin Luther King after being set up by a mutual friend. And at first, she wasn't interested in him because Martin was a preacher, and Coretta didn't really have a type for preachers. But they continued to go out, and they eventually started dating. They got married on June 18th, 1953, at Coretta's parents' house in Alabama. They went on to have 4 kids, 2 daughters and 2 sons. Yolanda, born in 1955, Martin III, born in 1957, Dexter, 1961, and Bernice, 1963. In the 1950s, they moved to Montgomery, Alabama, where their 2 older children were born. But exactly 2 weeks after their eldest daughter Yolanda was born, it was December 1st, 1955, where a black woman named Rosa Parks from Montgomery was arrested for refusing to give up her seat to a white man on a bus. Starting December 5th, Martin had met with NAACP, and that's when they decided that no black person should ride the buses until bus segregation was banned. It lasted for well over a year, which on December 20th, 1956, the Supreme Court ruled that segregating on public buses was unconstitutional. In early 1956, Coretta was at home by herself with her daughter Yolanda, in which their house was bombed. Now, they were able to escape the home unharmed, so they were okay. Now, Martin would leave the movement while Coretta would be out of public eye most of the time so she can care for the children. But their house had gotten many death threats and phone calls because Martin was leading the movement. Throughout the 1960s, Martin would continue to lead marches for the movement and would be arrested multiple times, with Coretta always standing by his side. But if that wasn't bad enough, the FBI had leaked tapes that were allegedly Martin cheating on Coretta, in which Coretta would find these tapes in the mail. Now, these tapes were released by J. Edgar Hoover as an attempt to smear Martin's image, especially because it was around the time where he was supposed to be accepting his Nobel Peace Prize, which Martin would still end up receiving, despite being blackmailed. Coretta had a hand in passing the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and at some point even met Malcolm X just days before he was murdered. By March of 1968, her husband Martin would often go to Memphis, Tennessee to join the protests for the garbage worker strike, as they were not making good money and being treated fairly. So they were holding protests for their rights and their better pay. The second time Martin went was more towards the beginning of April. On April 3rd, he gave his final speech, "I've been at the mountaintop." The next day, April 4th, 1968, at the Lorraine Motel, a black-owned motel, at about 6:01 p.m., he would be shot dead. He was pronounced dead an hour later at 7:05 p.m. at St. Joseph's Hospital. Coretta was devastated, as she now had to get used to life as a widow and a single mother raising 4 children. After her husband's death, Coretta worked hard to preserve Martin's memory and even fought for years to get a national holiday named after him. From March 10th to 12th of 1972 in Gary, Indiana, was the Black Nationalist Convention. It was held at Westside High School, in which Coretta would be one of the main speakers, alongside Jesse Jackson, Bobby Seale, and Betty Shabazz. Now, Betty Shabazz is the widow of Malcolm X. So both Betty and Coretta were widows of famous black leaders, and they were some of the main speakers at this event. This was the first time they met, and they would have a 25-year-long friendship until Betty's death in 1997. Throughout her years of activism, the FBI would make Coretta look like a threat, and they would often spy on her and put wires in her house and would just tape her personal life. Creepy stalkers. But don't worry, because Coretta was strong and brave, and she would fight against this. After years of working to get her husband's holiday, in 1986, President Ronald Reagan signed the bill making Martin Luther King Jr. Day a federal holiday. Yes, finally. Though, in January of 1995, Kabila Shabazz, who is the daughter of Betty Shabazz and Malcolm X, was arrested after she was allegedly conspiring with a hitman to assassinate the then leader, still leader of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, in which Coretta, amongst many people, defended her. Like I said before, Coretta and Betty would become really good friends from 1972 up until 1997, when Betty died in a house fire that was caused by her grandson. So he didn't have to live with her anymore. Wow, okay. You would set your grandmother's house on fire just because you don't want to live with her, just because you live with your mom. Even though clearly your mom had all kinds of problems and couldn't take care of you at the moment. So your grandma stepped in to take care of you, and this is what you do? Man, I swear, I can't with kids sometimes. I'm at a loss for words. That pisses me off every time I hear it. Betty's life was taken out for what? For no reason. Over something stupid. What the fuck? Well, I just want to take this part to say, R.I.P. Betty Shabazz. Keeping her husband's memory alive and never letting anything stop her. Similar to Coretta. In fact, episode 1 of War Women was dedicated to Betty. I'm going to leave a link to that in the description of this video. By the 2000s, Coretta's health started declining as she had ovarian cancer, and at some point moved to Mexico so she can get the proper treatment for it. Though on January 30th, 2006, in Rosario Beach, Mexico, Coretta died at the age of 76 in her sleep from the complications from the cancer. Her funeral was held on February 7th, 2006 at the New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Lithonia, Georgia, with her youngest daughter Bernice King eulogizing. In attendance were also the presidents George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, and Jimmy Carter. Well, we've made it to the end of the video. If you liked it, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you can be notified whenever I post a new video. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.